Hello, lovely people. Hope you're well. The last time I did one of these was with James Redmond, Liverpool fan. I'm delighted to be joined by a top lead writer at Give Me Sport for WWE and wrestling. Not only is he that, he's a great Liverpool fan as well. Someone I've got to speak to a few times on a personal level. Great guy. Guys, sit back, relax. I'll be interviewing the one and only Loius Dangoor. Let's do this. Louis, how you doing, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. As we were both saying before we started this in the preamble bit, both very busy, but not a lot I can complain about otherwise. So all good, my end.
Good. Now, Lou, without exposing your age and especially without exposing my age, I'm quite a bit older than you. So we
To be
may have
honest, I
very
don't know how
different.
old you are.
All right, so I might as well say I'm 32.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
old. That is old.
Trust me, when you get to your age, you get to mine, you'll see the difference when you get out of bed, your hip starts going and everything. So there is a massive difference.
My hips are already going, mate.
Oh,
I played football last night, and I woke up this morning, and my knee was sore, and my thigh was sore, and I'm just like, I'm too old for this already, and I'm
no,
only
no.
21.
No,
So
Louis, it's not sore, bro. When you hit 30s, you'll know what sore is, bro. You'll soon
and
find
then we'll
out.
be saying that in our 40s. We'll be like, no,
Yeah,
this is sore.
Indeed. So I'll be honest, our wrestling sort of journeys might be completely different because growing up, I was a massive WWE fan. I loved WCW as well when it was in their peak. But we may have completely contrasting views to wrestling. So I'm really excited to chop this up. Plus, you're a scholar when it comes to wrestling. Like you're one of the best in the game. So I just want to ask you, when did you get into wrestling and what made you start watching?
So I was 10, which would have been 2010. So yeah, very different from you, completely different time.
Yeah,
WCW was dead. It has been
yeah,
dead for a decade by that point. So as you know, over here in the UK, the shows are they're not live, or they weren't
mm,
live at that time because
yeah,
obviously the time difference. So they used to tape SmackDown on a Tuesday and then air it on a Friday, but they
yeah.
used to be able to air it at like 10 p.m. here in the UK.
Mm,
So I think it was slightly earlier even because we were only young.
yeah.
So that used to be our like Friday night treat with our dad, me and my younger brother. We used to watch
Nice.
SmackDown. And it was really cool because he used to, at that point, pretty much, it was quite easy to tell what the main event would be. So the opening segment would start, and then, I don't know, someone would come out, and then other two people would come out, and they'd be like, all right, you're going to have a tag match at the end of the show. So my dad used to be like, all right, they're gonna book this. And we used to be like, how do you know? Like, how do you know? Because it always ended up coming true. And we were young at this point, 9, 10. So we were just like, but how do you know? And he's like, I've got a friend that works for WWE. And we used to be like, do you really? Who is he? Who is he? He's like, I can't tell you. It's top secret. And then as you get older, you realize it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. You can tell like what's being booked to set up these big matches. But yeah, at the time we were just blown away. We were like, how do you know this? It was nice, like sort of bonding experience we could do for them. Similar with Liverpool, with like that was the thing we all and we still do watch together. And then everyone sort of has their down period of wrestling where they stop watching or they watch less. Whereas I've never really had that, to be honest. I've just always continued watching, which has been kind of a crazy experience for me. And then now, kind of a lot of the people that I grew up watching, I've got to interview. Some have become my friends. So it's a pretty crazy experience over the last sort of 10 years of me being a fan.
Amazing. I mean, for me growing up, I've got an older brother, so he was the one that kind of got me into it. But again, I started watching in the early 90s. So I'm talking about sort of 93, 94, sort of when Diesel, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, all those guys. And then I really
You had
got
a good
into it.
time.
So, yeah, I did. I think I grew up in the best era personally.
You
And
did.
then obviously you had WCW with like sort of Sting, DDP, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Goldberg, like Sting, like it was amazing growing up in that period. Obviously, like for me, Steve Austin and The Rock, they were like the pinnacle. So for you growing up, who's your favorite wrestler?
Oh. It's always changed. I've always been a fan of Brock Lesnar. I know he gets a lot of stick, but I've
Okay.
always liked Brock Lesnar because he's just different, isn't he? Like no one's like him. He always feels, and I like wrestling that feels real. I like it when it's like, all right, I genuinely believe in that person. I mean, no one's more real than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
He's done it in the UFC. So I always liked Brock. I always thought he was cool. Daniel Bryan as well. Like his story was so engaging of his like fight to the top and fighting against the establishment. I quite like that. So I'd say those two especially were sort of my favorites. And then, I mean, as a 10-year-old, I loved John Cena. I thought he was amazing. Everyone at that time was sort of crapping on John Cena, but in my sort of young mind, him beating all of these bad guys was the best thing because I'm like, yeah, go on. He was like a superhero to me as a sort of young kid. So yeah, it's kind of, I've never been someone that has really sort of obsessed over one particular wrestler. I've always just been, I've appreciated a lot of them, but Brock I'd say is the one that I really do quite like, and I have a lot of respect for his work, and I think somehow he's quite underappreciated.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Brock because I remember a lot of Brock's first sort of stint in the WWE, and I remember his debut when he came in. I think it was a hardcore match with like Spike Dudley and a few other people, and I think Hurricane was in the match.
Yeah,
And he just ripped through these people. And I looked at him and I was like, obviously, I was used to growing up seeing these massive wrestlers, these larger than life figures. He just looked different now. I just remember looking at him thinking, this guy is just supreme athlete who just tearing these people apart. And even before we went into UFC, you kind of got that realism with Brock. However,
yeah,
he left before, in my opinion, before he really hit his pinnacle the first time around. And when he came out the second time, obviously he had just been UFC heavyweight champion, so there was no doubt in his legitimacy. Like he would
yeah.
literally rip someone else in the ring. We seen him do it to Braun Strowman that time when Braun got a bit excited and he checked him, didn't he, in the ring? But in terms of Brock the person, how do you view him? Because obviously he's not a people person. He's said it on record many times. He likes to keep himself to himself. As a wrestling purist, I like to see wrestlers who work full time get the sort of perks and the titles and stuff. But he's kind of changed the narrative. How do you look at the impact that Brock's had on the industry?
Like I think someone like Brock, you don't want him wrestling every week. Like I wouldn't want it. Wouldn't want to see him on TV every week. I quite like that he appears every couple of months for the big shows. It makes the big shows feel bigger, and it makes when he does appear feel even better. What I've always respected about Brock is, I think, and we're starting to hear it a lot more now with obviously every Tom, Dick, and Harry having a shoot interview and a shoot podcast, is he seems genuinely like a guy that's quite selfless in a way. Like I'm sure he can be selfish, and everyone in business is, and Brock is a businessman. But it seems like, I mean, Seth Rollins spoke about how when he was supposed to lose at WrestleMania 35, he wanted him to go on first because he thought it would be the bigger moment for Seth, and spacing it apart from Kofi winning his match and Becky Lynch winning her match. He thought that was the best thing. So again, showing his selflessness. JBL this week had basically said that Brock offered to lose a match that they were having on a house show because it was JBL's friends were in the crowd. So he offered just to lose so JBL could win in front of his friends. So I think we're seeing more now. And a lot of people are like, oh, Brock's a sweetheart, actually, behind the scenes. So we're starting to see more now. Maybe he is just like, I guess he's one of those people that if he's got your respect, he will make it worth your time, and he will be great to you. He just seems like the sort of guy, listen, I wouldn't want to piss him off. I would not want to piss Brock Lesnar off. But he would be a sort of figure that I guess you would like to kind of maybe even just be like a fly on the wall and see how he goes about his day and what he does. I think he's a very interesting character.
No, I agree. And again, even when I think of when I think Undertaker fought Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, and there's a clip of Brock behind the scenes where he's watching the match and Undertaker gets through unhurt and has a good match, and you see him just celebrate in that moment. And you're like, you know what, maybe he's not all bad. Maybe that is just sort of his barrier so people don't kind of take the mick with him and he isn't overexposed. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, he's got the program running with Roman Reigns at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of develops as well. And obviously Roman Reigns, another one who's kind of come through the fire to come out on the other side and is probably now the biggest name in wrestling. So, I mean, you spoke of John Cena. What's your sort of feelings towards Roman Reigns as a performer and as a professional wrestler?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. He's doing the work of his life right now. He feels so real, so strong. No one feels on his level in WWE. He really something special. I mean, I've been having conversations with people this week on Twitter where we're sort of talking about should he hold the title for like over 1,000 days, which is like unheard of. And I I put it out there as a bit of a tweet and was like, you know what, why not? And I was like, screw it, like let's see how it does. And it's got like 1.6 thousand likes of people just being like, yeah, I want to see him hold it for 1,000 days. And it's like that is unheard of in modern wrestling. So he's clearly captivated people. And listen, I'm a huge fan of Roman. I think even when he wasn't doing this sort of new character, I thought he was great in the ring and really underappreciated. So kind of to see him now getting his flowers is really nice. And he's doing the work of his career right now. So it's really a testament to him as a person and as an individual.
Without putting you on the spot as well, am I right in saying Bruno Sammartino is the longest holder of a top? His was something stupid though, wasn't it? It was something that
it was like 8 years. It was like 2,800 days or something, which realistically won't be broken.
Yeah, that will never happen again. Apart from if Roman was to continue to hold on to the belt and it was over 1,000 days, has anyone else come close to that apart from Bruno Sammartino?
CM Punk was like 400, 500, but no one in modern wrestling has held it like over 2 years. And that's what Roman would be doing if he held it over 1,000 days, which I quite like. I mean, like you've got the likes of Walter and Pete Dunne with the UK title, held it for sort of 600, 700 days, which is close, but obviously that's not at the same level as the sort of the main roster. It's a difficult one because I see the merits of it and not. But I think with two top titles, with the WWE and Universal, you can afford for one of them to be on Roman Reigns for a while. So yeah, I'd like to see it. And kind of as we mentioned, it hasn't happened, which would make it even more interesting, particularly in modern wrestling. It's kind of nice to have that. Like not every reign has to be a month. Some can be 1,000 days, and we can kind of enjoy it that way.
Agreed. So we've spoken about WWE. Obviously, growing up for me, there was WWE and WCW, which for me made it very riveting to watch because you had competition. And I always say, iron sharpens iron. You're as good as how great your rivals are. And right now, we've got a new company on the block, AEW. Now, again, because I'm probably from a different generation to you, I probably am a bit more captivated by AEW. Like Raw for me it's not the show I want to watch. I may tune into SmackDown now and again, but AEW would be the one out of the shows that I'd probably watch the most. What's your feelings towards AEW, considering you primarily grew up just with WWE?
It's one of those weird ones, as you say, that WWE was for a long time all I knew. I wasn't watching indie wrestling. I wasn't watching anything that was going on in Japan. I wasn't even attending shows that were here in the UK. I was watching WWE, and that was it. So wrestling, I'll be on WWE, stop right there. The only time I sort of looked beyond it was, when AJ Styles came in and everyone's got this big fanfare. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, let me look. And I'm like, he's cool. Like looking at YouTube clips and things. But I didn't know what TNA was. I didn't know what Impact was. I didn't know what New Japan was. So yeah, it kind of, AEW has come along and they've taken the world by storm, the wrestling world by storm. They are doing some tremendous work. They're putting on the highest quality product I've seen in my time as a wrestling fan. They're putting on killer matches every week. They are making people feel special. They're bringing some of the biggest people I know in, some of the biggest names in wrestling. Some of my favorites. We mentioned Daniel Bryan being one of my favorites. He's there now. CM Punk, who we all thought would never come back, has gone to AEW, just showing the power that promotion's got. Kind of like you said, I always hearken it back to, remember that title race, the Liverpool and City one in 18-19, when they just went neck and neck. That was like, we didn't win the league that year, but it was one of the most exciting title races ever, where just every week you're checking, like Liverpool are playing, but on your phone you're checking, what's the City score? What's the City score? And I like that. I like that rivalry. I like that competition. It made the Liverpool games mean more because you couldn't draw. It's not only you couldn't lose, you couldn't draw. And I kind of think about it the same way and I think we brought the best out of each other. Like, I don't think both teams would have done that well that season if the other one wasn't there. So kind of, I hope in the long run it is the same with WWE and AEW, where because both will hopefully be doing great. Right now, WWE might not be putting on the best product. And like you said, it isn't to a lot of people's taste. And I understand that. And I appreciate that the booking isn't great. And sometimes the wrestling isn't great, especially when compared with AEW.
Yeah.
So I hope in the long run, maybe this is what causes WWE to go, all right, we need to pull our finger out, because WWE, when its back's against the wall, often pulls it out the bag. And I hope, like we said, I've grown up watching WWE, and it's my job to cover it. So I want nothing more than for WWE shows to be good. It makes my life significantly easier if WWE shows are good. So I hope that this whole sort of what are we calling it? Wrestling war sort of brings the best out of everyone involved, and I quite like the jabs as well on Twitter.
Yeah,
like,
so do I.
They're quite fun. Like, people get so upset about them, and I've always said I don't mind the jabs unless it like comes at the detriment of the product. Yeah. Like if Raw's just full of jabs at AEW, which it never is. If it's just full of jabs at AEW, and then it makes the product worse, then I'm like, okay, chill out. But if it's harmless jabs on Twitter between people, who cares? It's a lot of fun.
I agree. I think sometimes, and I could be guilty of this as well, getting drawn in too much to Twitter and social media. Sometimes you just have to sit back and let it happen and enjoy it. So not everything has to be so opinionated or scrutinized so much. So I enjoy it as well. So obviously we've literally just touched on wrestling. I wanted to ask you, how did you get into being the lead writer at Give Me Sport? How did you get into wrestling journalism and covering it on YouTube, etc.? What was your journey?
So I was with WrestleTalk at uni, like while I was at uni. So I graduated from uni this year. In first year, I did a course where you didn't really have many hours. So I did politics. We had like 7 hours a week. So I was so bored. And I was like, what do I do? And I'm like, right, I love football, but everyone's a football writer. Everyone writes about football. Everyone talks about football. And when I didn't know much about editing. I didn't know much about in terms of either editorially or video wise. So I was like, breaking into that is going to be hard. So I also love wrestling. Let me see what there is. So I used to listen to WrestleTalk's podcasts.
Yeah. Shout out to WrestleTalk, by the way. One of the best
they're all great guys.
Yeah.
And I used to say, I was talking to my brother one day. I think we were driving. I was driving him to school when I was home from uni. And I said, hey, look, let's give this a go. Let me reach out to them and see. And I just started doing volunteering sort of feature content a couple of times a week. That was good. And then because I was at uni and I wanted to get my foot in, I was like, hey, if you guys want to work weekends, go for it. And then I was like, okay, let me work the weekends. And I worked the weekend for them doing news, and it was all good. And then everything sort of transpired from there, and it all sort of took off where I was getting more responsibilities. And then with COVID, I started to do more.
Yeah.
And it really took over, where I was sort of thinking, wow, what do I do? And with COVID, everyone was at home. So when I wanted to interview people, I used to reach out and be like, hey, do you want to do an interview? And they're like, yep, cool. I've got no shows on. Let's do it. So it really sort of took over my life, and my life became about covering wrestling. I was watching all the shows. It gave me something to do. Wrestling didn't stop. Football stopped. Wrestling just didn't stop. So it gave me something to do. And it was a great way into working in journalism, doing this sort of with wrestling. And I started to get more responsibilities, WrestleTalk, doing more on-screen stuff as well, which I'm a natural talker, but doing more on-screen stuff was great. And then you kind of take that from there. And I came to a point where I was doing it through my final year of uni as well, while finishing that. And then I got to sort of June, July time, and I had a decision to make. It was, do I stay full-time with WrestleTalk, or do I look what else there is? And to be honest, it's kind of a funny story. I was going to stay with WrestleTalk, and then someone from Give Me Sport reached out and said, hey, we've got this opening. We think you'd be great. What's your number? Let's give you a call. So I gave him a call. And within 2 days, I had a job offer, which was crazy.
Amazing.
And it was. Listen, I love WrestleTalk. I love the guys there. I love the people that work there. But this was an opportunity to head up WWE coverage and have it kind of be my baby, to do things my way, and to kind of, not that the way WrestleTalk were doing it was the wrong way. So much of how I do my work now is based on what I learned at WrestleTalk. Yeah. But it was kind of like, all right, I have more autonomy over what I write. I can sort of go into an interview going, all right, this is what I want to ask. This is what I want to know. And I think my readers will as well. So it kind of all came from there, where it was like, right, this is a decision I can't turn down. WrestleTalk, again, were absolutely amazing with me, understood my decision. And yeah, I've been here for just over 3 months now. I'm absolutely loving it. It's honestly a dream come true to get to do what I'm doing, writing about wrestling, something I grew up watching, something I'd be watching anyway. I'd probably spend some of my time at work if I had a 9-to-5 job in accountancy, reading wrestling news websites. And now, because I want to keep up, and now I'm one of the people forming one of the largest in the UK. So to get to do that is an absolute honor, an absolute privilege. And listen, man, everyone says, if you find something you love, you won't work a day in your life. And honestly, for those 3 months, I'm busy and I've been tired and I've had a lot of work to do, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I can't honestly think about not covering wrestling. I think it'd feel weird now.
Amazing. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Doing something that you love is an absolute privilege. And although yes, it is work, it doesn't feel like work. It's not like going to a job that you dislike or don't feel passionately about. It's like doing what you're doing. Yeah, you must love it. And look, to be doing it at 21, bro, that's absolutely amazing, man. The sky is your limit, man. So make sure you continue that and keep killing it. Just on to Liverpool. How did you become a Liverpool fan? Because I'll be honest, because I think we've both sort of started following each other on social at the same time, and I was like, WrestleTalk, Louis. I was like, Louis following me, and I'm like, all right. I mean, and then I was like, he's a Liverpool fan as well. I was like, all right, yeah, definitely. So like, what was the journey? How did you become a Liverpool fan?
So always, like, for as long as I can remember being a Liverpool fan, the first game I can remember was the FA Cup final with Gerrard scoring the wonder goal. And then kind of that 2006, 2007 season, I can remember really that being like my first, all right, Liverpool, like, you're a Liverpool fan now. And so my dad's from the Middle East, he's Israeli. So when he came over to the UK in the early 80s and sort of late 70s, there was an Israeli player playing for Liverpool called Avi Cohen. So he started following Liverpool because everyone here was watching football, talking about football. So kind of to fit in, he was like, right, that. And he knew Avi Cohen, obviously playing with Israel, and kind of was like, okay, there's that Israeli guy, let me follow them. Liverpool were doing well at the time, which I'm sure he won't admit, but probably helped his decision. And it kind of went from there, where he became infatuated with Liverpool. And then when we were growing up, it kind of wasn't really a choice. It was like, right, you watch Liverpool. Kind of, my family we've all got, like, the five of us, my mum and my two younger brothers, me, my dad, we've all got quite different interests. And obviously, with the exception of my mum, who isn't into football, that was the one thing we all love, Liverpool. Like, every weekend, we will sit and we will all watch the games together. Like, I mean, it's kind of a bit of like a rule thing where I know a lot of people like going to the pub to watch football with their friends. To be honest, we all just watch it together. It's never like, oh, we're going to watch with our friends. Like, no, we all just watch the games as the four of us. So kind of Liverpool, I kind of associate with family time, which is quite nice in a way. I've been to Liverpool a few times this year with various members of my family, which has been quite nice. So yeah, I'm diehard Liverpool fan, man. Like, I can't imagine not. Sometimes even last season, the impact football had on my mood was scary. Like, how upset I'd be the day after a loss or the night after, like the night of a loss, was scary. And sometimes I had to take a step back and think, like, it is just football. Like, chill out. It is just football. It isn't the end of the world. Like, when Liverpool looked like they weren't going to qualify for the Champions League, I was like, look, rough. I was like, look, it's obviously upsetting, but it is just football. Just calm down a little bit. But no, honestly, man, like, Liverpool is, again, like with the wrestling, I couldn't imagine not watching football. And when I speak to people who don't, it's crazy. I'm like, what do you do? Like, over the international break, I've been so bored, and I'm like, can't wait for football to come back. Like, what do you do when you can't sit there on the sofa like all weekend just watching every game that's on TV? So yeah, man, honestly, Liverpool will be my club, will always be my club. Got a lot of love for Liverpool, and I'm really, really kind of happy and excited for how the season's going to go.
Yeah, I echo everything you just said. There's nothing to me like Liverpool. It's just a special feeling, and obviously we cover it over on Kop-ish as well. So when I'll be honest, even as a content creator, when there's no football on, it hits us hard as well, because we're like, whoa, what do we do now? We've got to come up with new concepts and ideas. So I not only miss it from a personal level, I miss it professionally. Sorry, go on, bro.
That's what I've loved about WWE, man. Like, there's no off season, so I've always
even
got
when the
stuff
pandemic,
to cover.
even in the pandemic, they still just plowed on.
Exactly. So even like when Give Me Sport here editorially, people have had to think outside the box for content, because obviously there's no club football, and it's just internationals, which don't tend to do as well. They've had to think outside the box. Whereas for me, it's pretty easy all year round. There's no off season. I've always got shows to cover. Shows are every week. There's 3 shows every single week, 4 when there's a pay-per-view. So I never really struggle for content, which is always a good thing.
Indeed. Before we get on to the next set of questions, just want to say, please, people, subscribe and like the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you support Louis. All of his details will be in the description below, and we'll also plug it before the show finishes as well. Please follow us on social media as well. All the handles are at the bottom, and I'll also make sure Louis are there as well. So, Louis, the main task of this interview, I really wanted to do something a bit different. I wanted us to build an 8-match pay-per-view with wrestlers from the past, present, and just sort of get your feel for it. Now, this is completely how you want to do it. Any stipulation you want to use is fine. If you want to do it like WrestleMania 2000, where every single match is a triple threat or a fatal 4, that's up to you. The only requirement is at least 2 championships are defended on this pay-per-view. Yeah? All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, what is your opener to this pay-per-view?
Ooh.
And by the way, we're calling the pay-per-view the Dangoor Danger Zone. That's what we're calling it.
Oh, I like that. Someone actually said to me, they were like, if you like have your own podcast, it should be called the Danger Zone. I'm like, it really should. That's a good idea.
Go for it.
But wow, what would my opener be? I'd like to, so it can be across any promotion, past or present.
Any promotion, any era, however you want to do it.
Okay. I'm going to start off with a match I've always wanted to see. And we're going to start off big. So we're going to go for Daniel Bryan.
Okay.
Against Kurt Angle.
Ooh, I like it.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I like it.
Really technical, but you can also have fast pace, have it slow. I think that'd be a really one where, to be honest, you could put that at the front of the card or the back of the card, and it would be so I'd go for that one for sure.
Hell of a match to open with. It
really is. To be honest, if you asked me this 2 months ago, I'd have probably said Kenny Omega and Daniel Bryan, but we've seen
it. We just, and what a bloody match that was.
It was incredible. It was honestly incredible.
What a match.
But yeah, I'd say that one to open.
Okay. I'm good with that so far. What's your next match? So,
anyone that knows me knows I love a bit of FTR or the Revival, as they're known. So they're 100% going to be on my card, and I think I'm going to put them with. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're going to do the Revival versus Bret and Owen Hart.
Ooh. Okay.
I think they'd like to work that match. I'd like to see that match. I think that'd be a lot of fun seeing something like that.
I'll be honest, I like the dynamic of Bret and Owen, because they were always, obviously both of them are fantastic technical wrestlers, but there was always that little tension between them as well. When they were both on together, they were amazing. They'd beat any tag team in any era. But you never know just when it's going to hit boiling point, and then when Owen's going to just be like, I've had enough of being in his shadow.
Exactly.
I like that.
And
obviously,
absolutely, they're the best. I think they're the best tag team in wrestling right now. They're real tag team. Like, Young Bucks are great, but FTR feel like a tag team. Everything feels in sync, which I absolutely love. So I got a lot of love for them. So I'd say, yeah, for sure, those guys. I'd like that match.
I'm good with that match as well. Great start to the pay-per-view, bro. What have you got for match number 3?
Okay, match number 3. This is going to be a bit of a weird one because we could see it. They're all active. But I'm going to go for Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks versus Bayley.
So the 4 horsewomen.
The 4 horsewomen, exactly. We've never seen it. We will see it. We'll 100% see it.
Yeah.
But I think that'd be a really good match. They're all big names. They could all do a lot of good work. And they're all incredibly athletic, incredibly good on the mic. So I think the building up to the pay-per-view, the Dangoor Danger Zone, we'd have a lot of fun in the build. So yeah, I'd definitely say those 4 as kind of my my big women's match on the show. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
All right, so just quickly, I'm not going to spend long on this. Who is your GOAT out of these 4 women? Who's the best out of the 4?
Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair, without question.
Okay, see, I'll be honest. I'm not a big Charlotte fan.
I get it. I totally get it.
Because she's good. She's good. I'm not going to sit and say she's rubbish, but for me, I think Bayley's very underrated, but I'd probably just go. I think as a wrestler, I think Sasha's probably the best, but I think overall package, I think Becky is.
I get it, and I do get it, and I think Charlotte is always she's always going to be hampered by the fact that that's Ric Flair. She is, but what I looked at it, and I think everyone on that list, or not even on that list, because I think Bayley and Sasha have had their best matches together, but almost everyone has had their best match with Charlotte. Becky has had her best match with Charlotte.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey had her best match in WWE with Charlotte. Yeah. Natalia's had her best match with Charlotte. Almost everyone's best match has come with Charlotte, and I think that's impressive. She's a real ring general. She's absolutely fantastic. I've got a lot of respect for Charlotte Flair. So I think but listen, it's a toss-up. Sasha's great in the ring. Bayley's underrated. Becky, I think, is actually probably the weakest in the ring, but has the best sort of overall package and promo and sort of star power. So I think to say Charlotte's the best isn't discount the others, because they're also absolutely sensational in their own right.
Indeed. Okay, match number 4. Who have you got?
It's a big one.
Go on.
John Cena
versus
Hulk Hogan.
Ooh.
Listen, Hulk, less said about it, the better.
Yeah,
we all know Hulk is problematic.
Yes.
But when we look at who he was as a wrestler, he was brilliant in terms of captivating the audience. And I don't think there's a match that throughout wrestling history with bigger star power than that, other than maybe The Rock and Hulk Hogan.
We've seen them. Yeah, we see Rock Cena twice as well.
It'd be like a generational sort of passing of the torch. I really would like to see that.
I like the sound of that. Probably the 2, apart from Stone Cold, probably the 2 biggest merch movers as well in wrestling history as well. So yeah, Vince would love that match.
I'm sure he would.
All right, match number 5 then, Louis. Who you got?
Okay, I'm gonna go for Triple H.
Triple H
versus Cody Rhodes.
Okay, I know why you've gone here.
I think you could have a lot of fun with the WWE.
All right, so before I get into it, is Cody Rhodes a heel or is he a face?
I think he's the face and Triple H is the heel. Okay, I think that's more fun. I think with the AEW and WWE stuff, like you got a lot of stuff there. Cody obviously hitting the throne, the jabs between the two with NXT. I think this would be a lot of fun. I do have to say. I think might not be the best in ring, but I think you'd have a lot of fun. But both are no slouches. I think you'd have a lot of fun with what these two could do together.
I agree. Both are, even though Triple H, it was a great wrestler, very injury prone, unfortunately, but he just was an absolute machine. Cody's obviously excellent. Obviously got the lineage in his blood, so you know he's going to be a fantastic wrestler. I think the storytelling of these two is what makes the match so impressive, though. Their storytelling is probably 2 of the best in history, especially Triple H. Like, he can be so devious and evil in the ring, but at the same time, he even though he's a heel, he can still be that victim as well. Where you're like, oh, did that face go a bit too harsh there? Was Stone Cold a bit too harsh on Triple H? So I think the storytelling in that would be fantastic. All right, so we get to the business end of the card now. Fight number 6.
Sting versus The Undertaker, because you've got to.
So glad you said that.
We're never going to see it, and that's a real shame. We should have done. They were both in WWE. We really should have seen it. But man, what a match that would be! That kind of the two icons, the two stalwarts of their company. Yeah, there's not much more you can say.
Yeah,
I think this would be great. Kind of both in their primes. It would be something to behold.
Yeah, I'll be honest. So The Undertaker, in my opinion, is the best wrestler of all time. He's not necessarily my favorite, but I just think in terms of overall package, character, in ring, the variety of his wrestling, whether he wanted to do the ground game, he wanted to be a striker, he wanted to do power stuff, he could do high flying stuff. For me, he had everything: had size, power, strength, agility. For me, he's the best ever. But Sting, probably my favorite WCW wrestler of all time. Like Goldberg was obviously really captivating, but I've always been a Sting guy. In fact, my first wrestling toy was Sting as well. So I've always had a special affiliation with Sting. So like that. And as you said, both in the WWE at the same time, and they never pulled the trigger on it, which is just, it's heartbreaking, because that should have been the match. It
really is.
It should have been.
Really should have been. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. Match number 7. So the co-main event almost.
Okay. We're going to go for Roman Reigns versus The Rock. It kind of speaks for itself again. I think we'll see it as well. The whole head of the table stuff. Roman's doing the work of his career, saying he's the biggest name in his family. The Rock's in his family. Arguably one of the most famous people on the planet. I think you'd have a lot of fun with these two. Promo-wise, the match, I think it'd be good as well, kind of if you took The Rock in his prime. I'd really like to see this one. I think we will see it kind of. I think it would do wonders for Roman Reigns, considering how big The Rock is. I think we will see it.
So do I.
But put it on this card any day of the week, and it could have been the main event easily.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it would have been your main event, because I know you're a massive Roman fan. So I thought it would have been your main event. So I'm even more intrigued now to see who your main event is gonna be. So without further ado, who have you got? Who's your main event?
So we'll big it up. In the right corner, I've got Stone Cold Steve Austin.
My favorite of all
and
time.
In the left corner, I've got CM Punk.
Ooh.
I think it'd be, again, Stone Cold in his prime, Punk in his prime. You've got the whole antithesis. Basically, they're the antithesis of each other. They're both anti-heroes and fought against the establishment. But Stone Cold was the beer drinker, CM Punk straight edge. I think you'd have a lot of fun in the build. And the match in itself would be great. Stick a stipulation on. I didn't put any stipulations on anything, but we'll go for actually, I don't think you need a stipulation. Actually, you know what? You go for a hardcore match. Screw it.
Hardcore.
You go for a hardcore match.
For it. No holds barred, hardcore.
Exactly. I think you'd have a lot of fun with that, considering the talent involved. Yeah, man. I think it was a toss-up between these two for the main event and the Roman Rock match, but I'm going to tip it to these two. I think two of the biggest names of the industry at a point.
All right, just to run through the card, which I'll be honest, if we ever got to see this, it'd be amazing. So first match to kick it off would have been Daniel Bryan versus Kurt Angle. Then you got FTR versus Bret and Owen Hart. Number 3, you've got the fatal 4-way between Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Becky Lynch. Match number 4, generational passing of the torch, as you said, John Cena versus Hulk Hogan. Number 5, Triple H versus Cody Rhodes. The iconic match of Sting versus Undertaker at number 6. The Anoa'i family, Roman Reigns versus The Rock at number 7. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin versus CM Punk in the main event. All right, what are your 2 championship matches?
Oh, okay. And then I'll ask you a question. But we're going to go for Rock and Roman, because it's got to be. I think Rock's character needs the title. And we'll go for the women's match as well. For the women's title. The fatal 4-way 4 horsewomen. But as I was going to ask you, any matches that you want to see that I didn't put on that list, kind of like a party present? I wanted to put Eddie Guerrero in there, but I didn't know where to fit him in. My mind went to Rey Mysterio, but we've seen that. I was thinking Andrade maybe, but kind of I wanted to fit him on the card, but I couldn't. It was hard to fit everyone on. Shawn Michaels, I didn't even put on.
Yeah, you just mentioned the two names, Eddie and Shawn.
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels in their prime would have been a barn burner. Oh, what a match that would have been. Ray Phoenix, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
So I'd have probably gone Ray Phoenix and Ray Mysterio and the Ultimo Dragon in a triple threat.
We'll go through.
Do you know what? In fact, I'll go Fatal 4. I'll throw Ricochet in there as well as a Fatal 4. Those are probably the only two matches, but that would just be a really fun match for me because like Ray Phoenix, Ray Mysterio, Ultimo Dragon, Ricochet, Fatal 4, go out there and do what you want. No script, just tell them who's the winner, who's going to be the winner, and you guys go and you burn the house down. So that would be my two matches.
Be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun.
Look, I can't sit here and criticize your card because that's absolutely amazing.
It's just all star power, isn't it? I've thrown everything. I've thrown all my money at the wall, and I've gone right. Bring in the pay-per-view buys. The match quality might not be amazing as you said, an Eddie or a Shawn or like that four-way that you mentioned that would just be all kinds of crazy. But we've got some good names in there that I think would bring in the pay-per-view buys. I'd make some of my money back.
Oh, definitely. I think you'd make all your money back on that one, to be honest.
Let's hope.
I'd be very surprised if you didn't. All right. So, Louis, I just want to ask you, who has been your best interview so far? I'm not obviously going to ask your worst. So I don't want to put you on the spot like that. Who's been the best person you've interviewed so far?
It's a bit of a sad one, but I would say obviously the late Brodie Lee. I thought this before his passing because the interview was so good. Like, as you know, someone that interviews people and kind of is a content creator. When you do collaborations with people or you interview people, at the end of the day, it's like you're having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
And some people in life you get on with, some you don't.
Yeah.
And it's like a conversation with two friends. Like you meet someone at the pub and you might not get on with them, and you might think, you know, well, that person's a bit. I can say I was about to say dick. Don't know if you can say that. If not,
go for it, man. Yeah, go for it.
But Brodie was honestly, it was, I wouldn't say a connection, but it was just easy. We bounced off each other well. We were laughing and joking in the interview. We spoke a bit afterwards, and he said it was a pleasure. But yeah, man, Brodie was an absolute saint. A real great guy. He spoke at length about his kids. You could tell how passionate he was about wrestling. A real great guy. And I'd never listen back to my interviews ever, kind of, unless I'm transcribing them.
Yeah.
But after Brodie passed, I did watch my interview. And to be honest, it hit me hard. Like I didn't expect it to hit me hard, but it did. And I would sat there and it was just like, it felt like not a friend had died because I didn't know him well. We'd spoken a couple of times. But it did feel like, okay, like someone that wrestling loved had passed away. And it was a real sad loss. But for me, before his passing, I would have said Brodie. And the fact that I was one of his last interviews before he did pass was kind of even more poignant and important. So yeah, for me, it would have to be Brodie. And it was an absolute honor to get to speak to him.
Yeah, Brodie Lee's an absolute legend. Rest in peace to Brodie Lee. Really devastating when I heard that news as well, because you don't read anything bad about Brodie Lee.
No, I remember.
I was bad to say about him.
It was about 1 a.m. UK time, Saturday night, I think it was, or Friday night going into Saturday, and I sat there, and we were talking on it was the old WrestleTalk group chat, and we were talking about something rubbish. And one of the people just popped in the chat, Brodie Lee died. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, Brodie Lee died. I'm like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
And then looked on Twitter and like, no, they've been hacked. Like, you hope it's an awful joke.
Yeah.
Someone has just decided to hack AEW's Twitter, put out a graphic and make an awful joke. Yeah. And unfortunately it wasn't, but man, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, devastating news. But we're gonna move on now to quick fire questions. So with this, I'm gonna ask you the question. You've got 5 seconds to answer. So
okay.
The first thing that pops into your mind. Okay. So you have a choice between attending the following. Which do you choose? WrestleMania headlined by The Rock and Roman Reigns, or Champions League final between Liverpool and Man United?
Oh, Liverpool, Man United. Any other way.
Okay.
I love wrestling. I absolutely love wrestling, but it's always going to be football.
Okay, fair enough. That might answer your second one then. So, interview with Vince McMahon or Kenny Dalglish?
So I would go Vince McMahon for that one.
Yeah, I understand. The
Because
madman.
work wise,
Yeah.
I'd be I could take the month off because I would have done my page numbers.
Yeah.
And Kenny's done interviews. Vince rarely does.
Mm.
And kind of Kenny, I can appreciate how amazing of a player he was, but again, retrospectively, wasn't watching
Yeah.
at the time.
Okay, I'll switch
Wasn't
it then.
alive at the time.
Vince McMahon or Steven Gerrard?
I'd still go Vince. I think
Yeah,
work-wise.
fair
Again,
enough.
Vince hardly does interviews, never.
Yeah.
And Stevie does, but Stevie would be awesome to chat to. Like, that old question of like, who you're not going to ask me who I'd have to a dinner party, are you? Just in case that comes up.
No, I haven't got that on there. No.
Stevie G and Kenny, Stevie G and Vincent Mann are always two on the list.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Vince. I'd have to say Vince.
Fair dues. Again, you may have answered this question already. In fact, you probably haven't. Who, in your opinion, is the better wrestler of the three? Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, or Daniel Bryan?
Pure wrestler.
Yeah.
Bret Hart. Bret Hart, I think, is the best ever.
Okay.
In terms of characters, I think Daniel Bryan, like his ability to do everything, he was great. But no, in terms of pure wrestler, I'd have to say Bret Hart. He did the basics so smooth. He made everything look easy.
Never injured anyone, nothing. Absolutely
he's
mastering the ring. Absolutely mastering the ring. And the final one. So we're going to go for a Liverpool/wrestler player association here. So I'm going to name a Liverpool player, and you have to think of the wrestler that you'd associate with them. So Virgil van Dijk.
I don't know why Damian Priest came to mind. I think maybe because they look a bit similar.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll take that. That's not bad, actually. That's a good shout.
Tall, tan skin. We'll go
yeah, very agile for their height, strong. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Who you got for Salah, bro?
Ooh, someone quick. We'll go for Ricochet.
Obviously, about Ricochet's win-loss record, but we move.
Yeah, I would say maybe like Bret Hart. If I said the best ever, it would have to be like Bret Hart as well. So maybe no, we'll go for Ricochet. Speedy guy, quick, can do a lot of impressive stuff. We'll go for him.
Indeed. Fabinho.
Ooh. Sheamus.
Okay. Why have we gone
Doesn't
Sheamus?
get the plaudits often.
Yeah.
But very underrated and kind of has his important role on the card. He knows his role and he does it very well. Doesn't often get the plaudits and people don't often appreciate how good he is. But I think he does his job and he does it very well. So kind of similar to Fabinho in that sense.
I'm happy with Sheamus as well, a unapologetic Liverpool fan as well. So we love Sheamus.
Absolutely love it.
Jurgen Klopp.
Ooh. I know this is supposed to be quick fire, but I do not know.
It's a tough one. I do
not know.
The last one's even tougher, by the way.
Jurgen Klopp. Someone who everyone loves. Who does everyone love? Oh, it's a difficult one.
Probably Daniel Bryan. I think everyone loves Daniel Bryan.
I'm going to go for Tony Khan.
Okay.
So not a wrestler.
Yeah.
Obviously, he owns AEW. But everyone loves him. And kind of what he's done for wrestling has been amazing. And what Jurgen Klopp's done for Liverpool has been amazing.
Yeah.
He's sort of restored people's faith in Liverpool, similar to how Tony Khan's restored faith in AEW and sort of wrestling. Yeah, I'd have to say Tony Khan and Jurgen Klopp, and they're amazing in these press conferences. They're always so charismatic. So I'd have to say those two. I think that's not too bad. We'll take that.
We'll take that. And finally, FSG.
Mate, I mean, FSG
you got to go over some sort of a stable or faction now.
I'm gonna go the McMahon family.
Okay.
Like it's a standard one, it's the obvious one, but kind of like a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people don't like the McMahon family. You can't deny that they've done some good things. They've done some bad things.
Yeah.
But we all still watch the content that they produce.
Yeah, indeed.
Similar to FSG, we will all still go. I mean, I will always buy the shirts. I will always pay my money to go to Anfield.
Indeed.
Like I will pay my money to Vince McMahon, although we might not always agree with the decisions he makes. So yeah, I'd have to go for FSG and sort of the McMahon family.
Fair enough. Well, Louis, bro, I've had you for almost an hour. Thank you so much. One, for fitting this interview in your busy schedule. Two, for taking the time out to do this and answer the questions so fantastically. Where can the people find you and how can they support you, bro?
Man, I was just going to say thank you. Honestly, it's an absolute pleasure. I spoke a little bit earlier about when it's easy when you're interviewing someone or doing collaboration with someone and you just get on with them, and you and I get on well. And it's been an absolute pleasure to chat. It's nice to find someone that loves wrestling and loves football as well and loves Liverpool. But yeah, if people want to support me, I'm over at Give Me Sport. givemesport.com/WWE. I'm the lead WWE writer, so all of my content goes on there, whether it's original feature content or the latest news. Follow me on Twitter at the Loius Dangoor. That's LOUISDANGOOR. All latest news there: dog pictures, dad jokes, awful wrestling opinions, all of the above, really. 9 out of 10 people would recommend a follow. I've completely made that statistic up, but we'll go with it. Yeah, but again, it's been an absolute pleasure to join you today, man. Really, I love the work you guys do. You especially. Doing a lot of good stuff. So again, people, if you're watching this, make sure you're liking and subscribing.
Bless you.
And showing you all the love.
Truly humbled, man, and thank you. And as I said, you're doing massive great things at the age of 21. The sky's the limit for you. I'm a fan. I know thousands of others out there are fans as well. So keep doing your thing, man. Keep plugging away and keep wrestling at the forefront as well, man. We can't lose this.
I'm like the young Trent. Just keep impressing.
You are indeed. You are indeed.
I appreciate your kind words, man.
Bless you, man. Well, people, all you have to do now is like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you follow and support Louis. And thank you very much for tuning in. Until the next sit down with Sanderson, take care, stay blessed. See you soon.